I'm back, and hopefully you can hear me.
I can hear you. Great. So let's go to Camille.
Fantastic. Thank you. That's fantastic.
And you will introduce yourself, I suppose. Camille is a very senior analyst in the SMB world at telecoms at Omdia, and she will do a much better job of introducing herself than I will.
Thank you so much, and I'm so pleased that I'll be able to echo a lot of the things that you have said around the SMB cybersecurity opportunity. My team indeed focuses on helping service providers around the world thrive in this B2B universe, and the SMB is of course such a large percentage of that, from those solopreneurs up to the medium-sized company. And I have to agree with many of the things that you said. You know, SMBs are spending more money on cybersecurity from what we see, because we also are speaking to these businesses around the world. Now, that doesn't mean that their overall IT budget is growing. What it means is they're reallocating revenue, reallocating expenditure. So we do see there's growth, and we see a market that is worth $106 billion globally already, SMB cybersecurity. Not all of that is network based at this point. And we'll come back to why that is something to address. When we think about telco growth opportunities, they are beyond connectivity, and SMBs are looking to telcos to buy beyond connectivity services, of which security is a key, what I'd call rational adjacency, that can help telcos make more money. And importantly, and this is really important, I think, Seth, so you touched on this as well, SMBs are looking for simplicity. And what we've seen is that the majority of them want to buy cybersecurity within a bundle, and specifically a telco bundle. All right. Let's be honest with each other. Service providers historically started with larger enterprises, thinking that was the route to growth, opportunity, riches. And it's been very complex, in fact. Over the past few years, there have been acquisitions, there have been disposals. Yes, cybersecurity is an opportunity, but it's a very complex one, particularly at the higher end of the market. Selling cybersecurity to SMBs is relatively newer. Yes, there's been a lot of dabbling in this space. There are a few service providers who are, really investing in it. It's a growth opportunity. But many people in the service provider universe that I've seen have limited what they were doing to, just resale of antivirus. That is not where the opportunity lies. There is a far more nuanced and exciting opportunity around SMB cybersecurity. Particularly, we think about the increasing power of the network, the ability to embed more on the network. And that's where I think is where a lot of the growth is. If we can simplify cybersecurity for an audience that is not literate in this evolving, challenging area, that's where the growth lies for service providers willing to step up. Now, SMBs in general, I think they're a wonderful segment to serve. They're a growing segment, they're evolving. Yes, there are business deaths as well as growths, but you can see a quick return. Right? From a financial perspective, your strategy, you will see if you've succeeded faster if you target SMBs than if you target larger enterprises. Sure, individual contract value might be smaller, but actually the profits can be much higher. And the split that you see in revenue, I think, is actually evolving. This is a sort of an average global view of how the view of the revenue split is amongst telco B2B customers. I have quite a few service provider customers, and I'm sure that the Allot guys do too, who will say to you that actually, I'm making more money from SOHOs, I'm making more money from small and medium, and guess what? They're also more profitable. So I think there is less risk in SMB and faster return if you get the mix right, okay? So I'm very positive on this neck of the woods, particularly around cybersecurity, because don't forget, telcos have got trust. They do have trust. They are the number one in terms of control of the budget, satisfaction amongst different service provider types. So the telco is still number one. And that is something not to squander. And don't forget, if you think about how the SMB bundle has evolved from basic broadband, voice and broadband and other things, it's very clear, and this is a global view, that that cybersecurity is very much welcomed within a bundle that's becoming more complex, which means that the opportunity to capture digital budget is even higher. The customer lifetime value of an SMB, particularly with cybersecurity that keeps evolving, is growing. So that is the opportunity for many of you out there in the audience. But let's be clear, and I'm going to echo a few things that Seth has said. SMBs are not one size fits all, and there is a fundamental difference between their level of digital skills, the complexity of their business, whether they're a SOHO with only a few employees to a company that's got 100 employees. And that also applies in the buyer personas that you're going to be selling to. The non-IT buyer personas who have actually control over the digital budget actually tend to be more positive towards telcos than some of the if they're specific IT people, but they are still buying from telcos. There are industry specific needs. This is not a one size fits all opportunity. You have to think about the different segments within SMB, but the cybersecurity solutions are very diverse and they're confusing to SMBs. Now, I think there's a lot of awareness of cybersecurity, but preparedness is quite another matter, as I think Seth was saying. I completely agree with that. And so it's really your mission, I think, to simplify that. There's a big difference product and getting X versus building in security and perhaps ensuring compliance, particularly in an area where we're talking more about sovereignty and those types of concerns having a business impact. Can you help towards that type of objective to a small business? Right now, when we look at small businesses and see how they buy, we see that more than half are buying through some sort of self-serve, but what they're buying self-serve is quite different. And there is a need for some assisted sales as well. So I think you need to think about your digital environment. You need to think about simplicity by embedding security within the network to make life easier for those small businesses. I think you need to also not step away from providing education, which is part of the trust that you can deepen with these small businesses. And I think this is an opportunity that you are in a fabulous position to cement. But let's be clear, there are lots of competition out there. Today, no single other vendor has a bigger digital wallet share amongst SMBs. That is our conclusion from our global research. If you look here, the other sharks in the tank, so to speak, vying for SMB digital wallet share, it is still the telco holding on right now. Maintain that trust. You do it through cybersecurity, which is an evergreen concern, and you build on that, and it will help you also sell a range of other services and grow that customer lifetime value. So I am very excited about this opportunity, and I think it's nuanced and is evolving, and importantly for you, growing at a huge rate, from 106 billion today to over $166 billion by 2030. You want this action.